On behalf of the Kentucky Department of Education, I would like to welcome you to the Cohort 3 School Improvement Funds webinar, which was designed for Comprehensive Support and Improvement, CSI, and Additional Targeted Support and Improvement, ATSI schools that were identified in 2019-20 and are previous grant recipients. I would like to thank you for committing some of your time to learning about the updated application for this round of funding. We respect and value your time and plan to be efficient in communicating the information you need for a successful grant submission. This webinar was created with the following school and district personnel in mind: CSI and ATSI principals and teams, Title I coordinators, finance officers, and school improvement specialists. Our goal today is to equip you with the necessary information to assist you in the completion of your School Improvement Funds grant application. My name is Ruth Swanson, and I'm the Program Manager of District 180 in the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support. Before we review today's agenda items, I would like to remind you that you should have received the PowerPoint in an email from me, as well as the electronic SIF template. I encourage you to follow along and take notes on your slides as I discuss the application in more detail throughout the presentation. I also encourage you to share what you learned today with any teammate that may need to know the material as well. During today's presentation, we will review the following content: the grant's purpose and supporting roles, the SIF application, which is a multi-layer process and involves both school and district responsibilities, allowability, which includes evidence-based requirements, RAND, and the funding matrix, supporting documentation and the submission process, the awarding of funds, timelines and deadlines, and contact information. Let's take a look at the purpose of these funds and the different roles involved in the application process. As part of its responsibility authorized under Section 1003 of the Every Student Succeeds Act, the Kentucky Department of Education, KDE, is required to award funds to local educational agencies, LEAs, to implement, support, and improvement activities in those schools identified for improvement. These funds may be used for activities that the school determines, and KDE agrees, will improve outcomes for your students. When determining the activities that will be supported with these funds, you'll want to consider evidence, alignment, and collaboration. When considering evidence, all funded activities must be supported by evidence-based practices with levels 1, 2, or 3 evidence only. EBPs with evidence that only demonstrates a rationale at level 4 cannot be supported with SIF funds. In terms of alignment, all activities that you include in this application must also be in the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, CSIP, and the Embedded Turnaround or ATSI Improvement Plan. Feedback from your 2-day progress monitoring report should be utilized as a basis for planning. Consider what has been accomplished towards meeting your improvement priorities and what still needs to be done. As with all school improvement initiatives, these activities must be consistent with your school's needs assessment as well. As a collaborative effort, you will determine these activities with input from stakeholders, including school staff, your turnaround team and advisory leadership team, SBDM council, district leaders, etc. Within the grant process, each entity plays an important role. Once you've gone through the collaborative process to determine your activities, each CSI or ATSI school will use an electronic template to record the specifics of the proposed initiatives. The local educational agency or district will collaborate with schools and determine the specific process to have the core components of the application entered into GMAP. Districts will also complete several narratives describing their plan to monitor and support implementation and to assist with the sustainability of the proposed activities after grant funding has been depleted. As the state educational agency, KDE will review and approve the applications and award the funds. Additional information and detail about each of these steps will be shared throughout this webinar. The process for completing the School Improvement Funds application is multi-layered. Each CSI or ATSI school and the district itself is responsible for completing portions of the application. As we review this agenda item, you will learn more about what the core components of the application are and KDE's guidance for satisfying those key responsibilities. The official application is in GMAP, and once it goes live, it can be found under fiscal year 2022. Generally speaking, access to GMAP is limited to district personnel because it hosts a significant amount of budgetary and financial information for every school in the district. On the next several slides, I will explain in detail how KDE intends for each CSI or ATSI school and LEA to manage the application. As noted earlier, access to GMAP is generally limited to district personnel, meaning principals do not have access. Instead, we created a template that resembles the GMAP application that principals, turnaround teams, advisory leadership teams, and school councils should use when determining which evidence-based initiatives will be funded through SIF. Once the electronic template is completed to the school's satisfaction, it should be emailed to the appropriate district personnel point person or uploaded into a shared site. From there, information will be transferred into the official GMAP application on the school's behalf. This will obviously require some additional internal conversation at the central office level to determine what you want this process to look like in your district. We encourage you to converse with your internal teams and let principals know how this transfer of information should occur. I do want to reiterate that the official application is the GMAP application, and that is what KDE will review and approve. To ensure consistency with the application, we would like to point out a few key features. If you have the template nearby and would like to make notes on it, please feel free to do so. You may always request a clean copy or pull it from the email as needed. At the top of the electronic template, you'll notice two sections asking for total school enrollment and total award amount. When listing the total school enrollment, we ask that you pull the enrollment number from Infinite Campus from October 1st, 2021. This number will be input into the GMAP application, but it has nothing to do with the award amount itself. Instead, we would like to use it as a reference when we are reviewing and approving applications to ensure that your expenditures are reasonable and aligned to the enrollment number of the school. For example, if you have 152 students in your school as of October 1st, 2021, we would not expect you to ask for 180 software licenses or 500 Chromebooks. If you were out of school on that date, you may use the next date immediately available to you occurring after October 1. For example, if your school was out on October 1st and 2nd for teachers to participate in professional learning or a fall break, use the next date when school was in session with students present. We also ask that you list your total award amount when that information becomes available to you. The purpose is to ensure that when you are budgeting, all funds are accounted for. It is more of a reminder for you. To those of you handling the GMAP side of the application, this will already be pre-populated for you, but please remember that all funds must be budgeted to zero. We don't want to give any money back to the federal government. We want your students to benefit from them entirely. There are several core components to the application. First, outlining the school's evidence-based initiatives in chart form. These are informed by the two-day progress monitoring report. Next is the completion of a detailed budget for the 2021-22 and 2022-23 school years, and then a description of how the initiatives will be monitored. The first core component is the outlining of the evidence-based initiatives in chart form. In the first column, principals will list the improvement priority or priorities that were outlined in the two-day progress monitoring report that will be addressed by the evidence-based practice that you'll list in column 2. Column 2 should include the name of the evidence-based practice only. Do not include any explanation or citations. Information from this cell is gathered for a federal report on the EBPs utilized in Kentucky. Also, include only one EBP per box. If the evidence-based practice was not addressed in the CSIP and the Embedded Turnaround or ATSI Improvement Plan, it cannot be funded by the school improvement funds. Also, if the EBP doesn't meet level 1, 2, or 3 requirement, it cannot be funded through SIF. Monies must be spent on practices that provide a return on investment. In column 3, list all the resources necessary for the successful implementation of the evidence-based practice. Each resource should be numbered. In column 4, provide a brief explanation as to how and why each requested resource is needed for successful implementation of the evidence-based practice. These brief explanations should be numbered to correspond with the numbered resources. Here's an example for you. The template and the GMAP application include several rows. Again, you should have only one EBP per row. It is okay to include more than one improvement priority per row, or to duplicate improvement priorities if there are multiple EBPs that will be used to address them. But the key here is one EBP per row. Also, please notice the concise explanations provided. The second core component is outlining the budget itself. How much will the activities actually cost? Column 1 lists the munis codes that are allowable under SIF. I will discuss more about allowable expenditures later. The middle column is where you will provide a detailed description of the activity. You'll answer how many, how often, at what rate of pay, etc. The last column is where the dollar value will be listed. A couple of things to note here. The greater the detail, the better. This will increase the likelihood and timeliness of your approval. If you do not include specifics about quantities and costs, the application will be returned without approval. You'll notice that in the template and in GMAP, you may spread funds across 2 years, but it is not a requirement. If your allotment is enough to cover 1 year only, it is okay to budget all funds in year 1. Also, please note that year 1 means the 2021-22 school year through June 30. Year 2 means July 2022 through September 30th of 2023, which is when the grant expires. I will elaborate on this later, but I do want to remind you that you want to spend funds on activities that can be sustained. Invest your funds where you know you will get the biggest return. We want to equip our teachers with sound evidence-based practices that translate into improved student outcomes. The last core component asks you to elaborate on the systems you have in place to monitor the implementation and success of the initiatives. Those core components on the template are the same in GMAP. Please lean on your turnaround team or improvement team for assistance, and of course, abide by any parameters the district communicates with you regarding how they intend for you to manage the application. Obviously, the district's help is needed in ensuring information is transferred from the template to the GMAP application. However, in addition to that, the district has several questions that it must answer as well. The screenshot on the next slide elaborates on what the district will be responsible for answering in GMAP. There are 3 primary sets of questions categorized by the following themes: the improvement planning process, support and monitoring of the improvement plan, and resource review and sustainability. These questions ask the district to elaborate on its role with each CSI school's turnaround plan or ATSI improvement plan, how they intend to also monitor and support the schools, and how the district intends to assist the schools in sustaining its evidence-based initiatives once these funds have been depleted. In this section, we will review the allowability of expenditures under the School Improvement Fund program. Section 1003 funds may be used for any activity that the school determines and the Kentucky Department of Education agrees will help the school identified for CSI or ATSI to improve student outcomes. For example, Section 1003 funds may be used to implement interventions aimed at improving the school, such as professional development, tutoring opportunities to increase student achievement, or a combination of activities. The activities supported with school improvement funds must be consistent with the school's needs assessment and its comprehensive school improvement plan, CSIP, an embedded turnaround plan, or ATSI improvement plan. Within the application, evidence-based interventions must be included. Evidence-based interventions supported with Section 1003 school improvement funds must be based on strong, moderate, or promising evidence of a statistically significant effect on improving student outcomes or other relevant outcomes as defined in ESEA Section 8101. Documentation of the evidence supporting the effectiveness of your chosen EBPs must be uploaded with your application. Options for documenting evidence can be found in the Evidence Compliance Requirements Guidance document. Please note, providing only a citation or link does not meet evidence requirements. Whatever options you choose, the following information should be included: a study citation in APA format, a discussion of the study and its findings, a discussion of the local context, a discussion of stakeholder input, and an estimation of the ESSA evidence level. For additional information regarding evidence-based practices, please consult the Evidence-Based Practices website. There you will find definitions and supporting documents. All expenditures under the School Improvement Fund program must explicitly support the implementation of the evidence-based practices identified in the school's approved CSIP and Embedded Turnaround or ATSI improvement plan. These items could include professional development, human capital, instructional programs, technology, parent and family engagement activities, or necessary materials and supplies. If a school wishes to fund the implementation of an evidence-based practice not currently in their plan, they must amend their CSIP and Embedded Turnaround or Improvement Plan and upload the most recent version to the Continuous Improvement Platform, their school website, and their SIF application. Expenditures under the SIF program must adhere to the same RAND guidance as Title I. RAND stands for Reasonable, Allocable, Necessary, and Documented. This ensures that federal funds are spent responsibly. Before putting an item in your grant application, ask yourself, is this item reasonable, allocable, necessary, and documented? Let's consider an example. A school wants to purchase technology to support the implementation of an evidence-based practice listed in their approved plan. The school has 60 students who will be impacted by the practice. Can the school buy 100 iPads? iPads are a documented need found in their approved plan, and instructional technology is an allocable expense. The school has determined that the iPad purchase is necessary to run the evidence-based practice. However, it is not reasonable to buy 100 iPads for 60 students. The school should reduce the number of iPads in their application in order to meet the RAND requirements. To help determine which expenditures are allocable under the SIF program, please access the Non-Competitive Federal Funding Matrix. This document lists all of the allowable munis codes for the SIF program. Please be sure to review the column labeled ESSA Section 1003 School Improvement, not the column labeled NCLB School Improvement. The current SIF program is governed by the ESSA. As new guidance comes from USAID, the funding matrix will be updated. So please be sure to access the most recent version before writing your grant application. School improvement funds are awarded to the district, but the applications must be written by the school. District-level officials have the following responsibilities. Title I coordinators. SIF funds are subject to Title I Part A requirements, which means you must adhere to any Title I Part A policy or practice, for example, time and effort, labeling of purchases, record keeping, etc. These funds are subject to monitoring. For finance officers, KDE encourages you to ensure expenditures align to district policies and guidelines. Also, funds must be expended by September 30th of 2023, and no carryover waivers will be granted. Please ensure funds are drawn down consistently. We will now review the supporting documentation needed and the process for submitting all required components of the School Improvement Funds application. Your approved CSIP with Embedded Turnaround or ATSI Improvement Plan, Documentation for your EBPs and a signed principal assurance must be uploaded into GMAP with your application. Once the school has completed the electronic template and has budgeted all funds, the principal will download, print, and sign or electronically sign the principal assurance page. This can be found on the last page of the electronic template. Your district representative will need a copy of the completed template, including the signed assurance page, and a copy of your plan and evidence documentation. District representatives will ensure that the contents of the application are entered and the supporting documentation is uploaded to GMAP. A KDE reviewer will be assigned to work with you throughout the approval process. We'll share that list of assignments at the end of the presentation. Please allow several weeks for the processing of all applications in GMAP. Though exact award amounts will not be shared during this webinar, I wanted to provide you with background information on how award amounts were determined. To ensure school improvement funds are awarded equitably, funds will be issued to schools based on a per pupil amount determined by KDE, and we will multiply that dollar value by the total student population. The total student population is based on your membership number from 2020-21. Award amounts will already be pre-populated in GMAP, and you will have your amount shared with you via email. To arrive at the per pupil amount, we took the total dollar amount available for distribution and divided it by the total number of students in the cohort. There are over 31,000 students in Cohort 3. So the total student population times the per pupil amount equals your allocation amount. As an additional note, membership is the count of students enrolled on the last day of school for the 2020-21 school year. In this section, we will review the timelines and deadlines for this grant. Please note the following deadlines. Your application should be complete and uploaded into the GMAP system by the date provided to you following the delivery of your 2-day progress monitoring report. Your assigned KDE reviewer will work with you throughout the process to finalize your application. Funds may not be expended until after the application has been formally approved in GMAP and the official award notification has been posted. Funds will be awarded and applications approved in 3 cycles throughout the 2021-22 school year, according to your 2-day review date. Failure to respond to your assigned KDE grant reviewer may delay the release of your funds and your start date. Finally, you have until September 30th, 2023 to spend the funds from this grant. No carryover waivers will be granted, so please be proactive in spending your funds and planning for unexpected surpluses. An amendment process has been included in the GMAP application. Although amendments are allowable, please exercise discretion to ensure fiscal controls and fidelity to the improvement process and intended outcomes. Let's review the basics and key points we've discussed today. School improvement fund expenditures must support evidence-based practices that are based on strong, moderate, or promising evidence only, levels 1 through 3, and must be aligned to your CSIP and embedded turnaround or ATSI improvement plan. The application process must be a collaborative effort with input from multiple stakeholders along with a shared plan for submission into GMAP. The application must be reviewed and formally approved in GMAP before any funds may be drawn down. No activities should begin before the application has been approved and the award notification has been posted. This is a school-level grant. All funds must be spent on services to support students in the identified CSI or ATSI school only. This is a time-sensitive grant. All funds must be spent by September 30th, 2023, with no carryover waivers granted. Your application is subject to open records request. As you consider the current needs of your staff and students, please keep in mind your previous SIF applications and the initiatives they are funding. As a reminder, here is a list of the previous funds with their expiration dates. It will be important to coordinate and align initiatives across applications to ensure that all funds are used within their time frame and that you are implementing effective and systematic improvement activities and not just purchasing a list of stuff. Here are the next steps for schools and districts. First, consider your previous applications and the unmet needs of staff and students, as well as the feedback provided in the 2-day progress monitoring report. School personnel should begin reviewing the electronic template along with your turnaround plan or ATSI improvement plan to determine which evidence-based practices will be funded by this SIF grant. District personnel should establish the process for GMAP submission and communicate the plan with CSI and/or ATSI principals and staff. Next, I'll share the KDE reviewer and contact information for each eligible school. If you work with the following schools, Natalie Guashiri will be your reviewer and contact: Cane Run Elementary, Greenwood Elementary, Breckenridge Franklin Elementary, Newburgh Middle, Watson Lane Elementary, Rangeland Elementary, Western High, Robert Frost 6th Grade Academy, Miners Lane Elementary, Iroquois High, Doss High, Trinell Elementary, Price Elementary, Stewart Academy, Mill Creek Elementary, Knight Middle, Conway Middle, Wheatley Elementary, Atkinson Academy, and Frederick Law Olmsted Academy North. Marcia Van Hook will be the reviewer and contact for these schools: Butler County High School, 9th District Elementary, Danville High School, Fairview Elementary School, Fairview High School, Duff Allen Central Elementary, Franklin County High School, Fulton County Middle School, Fulton County Elementary, Thomas Jefferson Middle, Wellington Elementary, Hancock County High School, Cordia School, Emelina Elementary School, Newport Primary School, Newport Intermediate School, Owensboro High School, Union County High School, Seneca High, and Ballard High. And I will be the reviewer and contact for the following schools: Rector A. Jones Middle School, Englehart Elementary, Bick Elementary, Fraser Elementary, Jacob Elementary, Young Elementary, King Elementary, McFerrin Preparatory Academy, Maupin Elementary, the Academy at Shawnee, Shelby Traditional Academy, Coleridge Taylor Montessori Elementary, Kennedy Montessori Elementary, Bryan Station Middle School, William Wells Brown Elementary, and Holmes Middle School. I hope the information provided today will support you in the successful completion of the School Improvement Funds application. Please feel free to contact your KDE reviewer for additional assistance or information. Thank you for viewing.